Hello everyone, welcome to my art room. I'm Danae and today I'm doing one of my Color Cube series from the Color Cube Volume 1 by Sarah Renae Clark, and today's palette is number 10, which is beautiful, botanical. I love these pinks and yeah, this is a really beautiful palette I'm excited to play with today. So for apricot, I'm going to use this peach tone. It's from Nova Color. I've altered it slightly, so it's not exactly peach tone anymore. And I did it a long time ago, so I don't remember what I added. I feel like it might have been a little bit of yellow, but maybe some white. Anyway, so I've altered it and it's a different quality now. For puce, I have this Violet de Mars, which I'm almost out of. This is an abstract paint and I love this color. It's so beautiful and rich. For this is called beige, but it's showing up to me as a very pale green. It looks very pale. So I have this Titan Green Pale. Oh, sorry. Titan Green Pale. And I'm not sure why it's called beige, because to my eyes in person, it's showing up very green. I'm not sure if the camera is capturing it as well, but this Titan Green Pale is going to be a really nice match. Instead of camel, I am going to substitute bronze. I just don't have a lot of browns, and I don't really love brown. Sorry to everyone who absolutely loves brown. And for artichoke, I have green cactus, and this is Lucas Krill Studio. Love this paint. And today, I'm going to work on this big mixed media paper. It is 17 inches by 14 inches and it is 110 pounds. This is a Fabriano paper, which I got from a store in the States called Hobby Lobby. And I've never used it before, so I'm giving it a try to see how I like it, because I love Fabriano's papers. And today I have been inspired to do something I saw Denise Love do. And I'm going to include probably a screenshot here or a link to her her video where she has painted one sheet of paper and then she folds it and she makes it into a little book. And I thought that looked really fun and I'm eager to give it a try. So the idea here is to create a painting. She uses watercolor and creates beautiful things. I don't have any watercolor, so I will use acrylics, which is what I have. And after you've created a painting, you fold the paper into a book. And so you kind of get a surprise about each page, what it looks like. So we'll see if it works as well with acrylics as it does with watercolor. But it's really fun to watch her create it. And yeah, this is a beautiful color palette, so we'll see what I can do. These crayons I'm starting with are Neo Color 2 crayons. They are water soluble. So as I add anything on top, they're going to smear and smudge and move, whether it's you know, water like liquid or a medium or even paint. Paint's going to make them smear and move. So I decided to try and fix them. This is a relatively new product for me. It's all natural, so it's non-toxic, so you can use it inside. But it took forever to dry. And when I started painting again, I forgot to press play. This is a bad habit I have. If you've watched several videos, you've seen this happen multiple times. So the paint that I have added while you were unable to watch, I used that color shaper and I scraped the painting or the acrylic paint across the page. And you can see I've used green, I've used that bronze, I've used some of the violet, Mars violet. And now I'm adding paint using a brush. So I apologize for what was lost. This video ends up being quite long because it is quite a process that I go through creating essentially one gigantic abstract piece of art. And then I also fold it down and create little abstract pieces of art. So there's still quite a lot of video to enjoy, even though we missed those initial background layers. And I'm treating this just like I would treat any art project where I'm creating an abstract piece of art. So I'm going to add layers, I'm going to add texture. Here I was just scratching into the wet paint, creating those circles. And I don't have anything really definitive in mind. I do want to create some interesting shapes and interesting patterns because I know when I fold the paper that you know, I'll get some surprises on what's on each page once it's folded. But I'm also trying to create a cohesive piece of art. So I have to go through the ugly phases of the art project or the art process. For me, there are ugly phases. So making these circles, I was initially just adding shapes and, you know, circle being a shape I use quite a lot. But once I added them, I realized that this was really good in keeping with this idea of a garden, the garden motif. And so I decided to lean into it, and I'm using those pinks and the violet Mars to create roses for my garden. And this kind of informs now the next few layers. And I have this pinwheel stencil. It's from Joggles. I'll link the name and the number in the description box below. I use this one and I use another one. And at this point, I was just adding it thinking, you know, these are, again, sort of floral shapes. They're round, you know, these could be abstract petals. And then once I pull it, I realize, oh, these look like leaves. These could be abstract leaves in my abstract garden with my abstract roses. And so I lean in now quite heavily with the green, and I think they make some beautiful abstract leaves. I'm really happy with the way this has turned out. And I have the greens on my palette plus white. So I'm mixing the greens, I'm adding in white so that I get different shades. I want some variety. And the more the colors are mixed, the more they work together. They'll blend and they'll look cohesive because they have a little bit of each other in them. So here I've added more white because the leaves here are now even lighter. pretty. Simple, lots of fun. So I've added quite a lot of green, and now I realize I want to add some more of that violet Mars. Mars violet? I'm not sure which way. Is it violet Mars or Mars violet? Regardless, it's a beautiful, beautiful color. So this is perhaps a different flower in the garden. I like the dark contrast with the light. And now I'm coming in with this stencil, which is Batik #1. And I'm using my bronze to just fill in the background and create interest, add texture, add some lines. It's a metallic color, which just is beautiful. And I'm also very quickly covering up empty space. So this is an easy way to add interest and color and pattern, especially in this case to an abstract piece, and cover up background, make it cohesive, but do it very quickly. You know, if I tried to hand draw each of those shapes in, which of course you can, if you don't have a stencil, you can just draw them in, you can paint them in. But it went very quickly using the stencil. So now I'm just coming back in with more colors for my roses, just creating layers, creating depth. I'm using some light, I'm using some dark, and I alternate in between, trying to decide just which variation I like the best. And then I've got some space down here. I decide to, maybe these are like petals that have fallen off. Anyway, just to add a little bit more pink to the background, and I let that dry. So now I'm coming in with my Posca marker. I'm going to make some marks on top. So I'm adding some little centers to my flowers. You definitely need to let your acrylic paint dry, but then once it's dry, you can add, you know, as many layers on top as you want. This is a great marker. And I'm trying to think through what I want done. I'm thinking I want it subtle, so I'm adding some very light, very delicate lines, but you'll see I really liked it. And as I go along, I become more brave, and the lines get darker as I go. I just love the metallic shine. So here I have, this is like full blown. Yeah, nothing subtle or shy about those lines. So I'm just looking for places where I can add some more interest. The lines of the pen, you know, mimic the lines from those stencils and just make it a different variation, make it a little bit interesting. And I decide to add some dots to these leaves. And I put the dots down the side just to create something more interesting to look at. And the bronze on the green was such a good choice. It's really beautiful. I'm very happy with the way that turned out. I'm going down each of the leaves. So on each flower, the leaves have the dots on the same side, but I don't choose the same side of the leaf every time. So it just, again, creates a little bit more interest. Some of the little skinny ones, they're right down the middle. That's fine. Yeah, the bronze on the green was such a good choice. Really, really happy with that. Just beautiful contrast. I know I'm getting near the end because I'm starting to hesitate more. I'm really being very thoughtful now about the marks that I make. This is just a tiny little paintbrush, and I've got some white acrylic paint on it, and I'm just adding a very rough outline. I want the paint to skip. I'm using a very light touch. So there is kind of a white outline, but it's broken and it's wonky. I think it finishes those flowers really nicely. And then after looking at it, I realized we're kind of a lot in the mid-tones. I do have some white spaces, but I don't have very many dark spaces. I mean, that bronze is quite dark, but I decided to paint in this little flower on the side with more of that Violet Mars to make it really dark. And I've just got a little paintbrush here, adding a little bit at a time, and I'm going to build up the layers. So as the paint dries, I can add another layer and it will make it darker. So thin layers over and over. And it really makes this color pop on the page. I've put that stencil in the middle, so I know when I fold it, I'm going to have part of the flower on one side of the fold and part of the flower on the other side of the fold. So that will be really interesting. I'm excited to see how that turns out. I love painting. It's very therapeutic, you know, just the process of adding paint to the page. You can add a little paint, you can add a lot of paint. If you've seen some other videos, I do some angry painting. I love paint, I love paper, I love creating. And then again, just to add some more dark spaces, dark shapes, I'm filling in this corner, which looks really great because it's the pale, very pale flower. And so then the really dark shape next to it really accentuates the shape of that flower. And still just adding a few more layers, bringing in the dark into the flowers again. Very light touch, keeping it whimsical, painterly. I've got my color card off to the side that I reference. So I know I'm sticking within that color palette. I'm getting that garden feeling. That was a really fun and beautiful prompt. I was really happy with it. So here is where I've finished with the painting, and I'm gonna let this dry now. So just giving you some close-ups. Off camera, I do go in and I take my white Neo Color 2 crayon and I scribble it into some of these places where the paint is very white. I had to turn the paper around just here because the paper is so big I couldn't film all of it. So where those white spaces are around the roses, I scribble in with some white crayon, and it was you can see it there now. It was a last minute idea. So I don't know that I got that really pale green, the one that she's calling beige in this. I don't know that that's well represented, but definitely the greens, or the green, the pinks, and that bronze. Yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. This was fun. So now that it's all dry, I'm going to do the folding. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold it in half. You fold it in half both ways, so it doesn't matter which way you fold it in half to begin with. I chose the long way. Denise Love has some little bull clips which help with this part. I don't, so I'm just gonna carefully press down the edges, trying to keep it really even. But even if you don't have perfectly accurate folds, I'm going to show you at the end how to get past that so that your book looks perfectly lined up regardless. I'm using my bone folder, and this is wax paper just because I don't want to scrape my bone folder across my artwork. But I want a really sharp seam. I want to really fold that seam down as tightly as I can. So the wax paper just helps to protect the paint while I press down on it. So fold in half one way, fold in half in the opposite way. So you'll now have a seam down both centers. And now this short way, I'm going to fold the ends to the middle. I'm just, trying to be really careful to line everything up and to try to hold it in place while I flatten the seam. And now this is the back of the painting, so I'm not concerned. I'm not going to damage any of the paint by pressing down into that seam. And then the other way as well. And if you have clips, I think they would be very helpful. Some little clips to hold the page while you flatten the seam so that it doesn't move at the last minute. But I'm just doing the best I can, and I'm going to really flatten those seams. So now I have a seam down the middle, and this seam is where I'm going to cut. It's the very center. So I've folded it in half, and I'm cutting down the center seam. So here it is, cut just in the middle, because this is how you're going to make your book. You're going to fold it in half, and then you're going to press the center into the center. And now you can see how the book is going to look. And I'm kind of experimenting to see if I have a cover that I like in particular, and to see which way I want to orient the book. Sorry, some of it's off camera. I didn't realize quite how far it was. And I decide I like this page as my front. So I'm going to reopen the book, and I'm going to very generously apply my glue stick to each page, or to each rectangle, which becomes a page, so that when I fold it together, it's all going to stick together really nicely. I am trying to work quickly because it's warm. It's summertime while I'm filming this. It's August. And I'm afraid that glue stick is going to dry before I can fold it all the way. So here I've pressed it all together, and I want to press down the seams, and it did fold a little bit wonky. So here I'm just creating that spine so that it'll lay as flat as possible. But you can see that the edges don't line up perfectly. because the paper has some weight to it, it's not going to all line up perfectly. No matter how carefully I folded it, it will have some leftover, some paper that hangs over further. And so this is all you need to do is then trim it. So I have this cutting mat and I'm going to use my ruler. And you need a very sharp blade because otherwise you'll rip the pages. Now you can let the glue dry first before you start cutting. With the wet glue, it does make it a bit tacky and the paper is softer, so you run the chance of ripping. So you can let the book dry completely before you do this step. But because I was filming, I was in the mode, right? I was just going for it. So I'm very careful. It's a very small cutter that I'm using, but it is sharp. So I was fairly confident, and I'm just going to take my time. You can see I do many cuts, and I just cut through each layer carefully. This video has been sped up, so you can imagine me doing this even more slowly and carefully so that I get a nice clean edge. And there it is. Now I have a beautiful little book. You guys, I am so happy with this project. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. So I'm showing you, that's how I'm going to let it sit to let it dry. And oh, it was just so much fun. I loved it. And here I'm going to give you some close-ups of the little book. Oh, it's so precious. My little garden book. Now you can, you know, if you make one of these, you can put sayings in there. You can do whatever you want with this. At this point, I'm happy to just let it be a beautiful little book of art. And I'm so happy with it. Thanks for joining me today. Thank you, Denise Love, for this beautiful inspiration. I'm so happy I tried it. I am definitely going to try it again. I think this was a great project. All the best to you guys out there. Give this a try. Make some beautiful art. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.